We are officially in brunch season, and I'm gonna show you how through the last 20 years or more, I have very easily created a brunch or brunches for my families.
If you've ever spent all of brunch in the kitchen instead of spending time enjoying your family, this is for you. I'm sharing an affordable brunch menu where almost everything is made ahead so you can enjoy the day without overspending or overworking. And these aren't just for special occasions. Every single one of these dishes can be made in advance for busy weekday mornings. Affordable, delicious, and not overwhelming. 3 key descriptions you don't always find in the same sentence when it comes to brunch.
Before you get any further into this video, save it. Save it here on YouTube, but I also recommend you save it on Facebook. That's what I do when I want to be able to easily go back and find something. So save this video because you are definitely going to want to come back to it for inspiration when it's time for you to start making all your spring brunches. I'm going to be hosting a spring brunch for just my family. We have a family of 8, and I'm going to show you how I personally have always done this very affordably and very, very easily. So we have always been a pretty low income family, and we are in that time of year. It is brunch season. We've got Easter, there's Mother's Day, Father's Day, and these are always great days to do a nice brunch. Personally, as a mom, I like to be able to sit down and enjoy the brunch with my family though. So one of my top secrets is to plan ahead, but also prepare ahead. Every dish I'm going to be showing you today can be made a full day or more in advance. And that is my secret to staying sane through hosting a brunch.
So that is my very first tip when it comes to planning an affordable brunch and a brunch that can be made in advance. Get your menu plan all laid out and prepared in advance, and as far in advance as you can. A week or 2 is perfect. You can use all of the recipes that I have put in this video and in the description box below if you need inspiration.
Spring, it always puts me in the mood for brunches, but if you've ever tried to plan one, you know how easy it turns into, what was I making again? If I don't do proper planning, there's times where I forgot dishes. There's times where everybody went home and I still had a dish or 2 in the refrigerator. And then there's also the issue of forgetting ingredients and having to take extra trips to the grocery store. So something that I have always tried to do is map out the meals. I will just write out the meals on a piece of paper like this, and I will usually just tack it to my refrigerator so that I can easily, the entire time I'm planning, just go look at the menu plan. And then when the menu plan is on there with all of the dishes that I am going to be making, it helps it, especially on brunch day, especially if I am hosting for other people too, it makes it so that nothing's forgotten, because all I have to do is use the same plan that I had, the list of food that I was making on the fridge, and I can just keep going back to it while I'm heating or reheating actually the dishes. So the times that I have not done the planning, it's scattered, it's a little chaotic, and like I said, I literally forget dishes in the refrigerator and forget to reheat them. Now, I used to have a little bit harder of a time of planning. I used to have recipes saved everywhere. Instagram, Google, I'd have screenshots, plus all of my, as you can see, I've got all of these cookbooks where I have half of the recipes, and some on the little cards from my grandmothers, as well as some of the cookbooks that my grandmothers added to, like church cookbooks. And as hard as I used to try to stay organized and gather everything and make an ingredients list and a grocery list, I would still end up forgetting things sometimes because there was just so many and things were in so many different places. And you probably know it can be hard to keep track of all the recipes and the ingredients when you're doing any kind of a brunch or a dinner. But then I found Recime. Maybe you've heard me talk about it here before because it's been so helpful and so wonderful to have, and it's just been a lifesaver. It has made planning things like this brunch or even a full week of meals for our family so much simpler. We use it especially for times like this when we're planning a dinner or a brunch, but we also use it all throughout the week. Now, whenever I find a recipe I love online or even handwritten, I will save it straight to recime. You can literally take a picture of the recipe if it's on a card. You can take a picture of it, import it, and recime will save it. And one of the cool things about it is that it makes it easy to duplicate the recipe. So if you need to make bigger batches, all you gotta do is hit one button. There's no math that you have to do anymore, so it saves so much time and mistakes. So what it does is it pulls all the ingredients. And like I said, it will do this from the recipe you took a picture of, but you can also pull recipes from all over the internet, any website, and as I said, Instagram and TikTok. It will pull all the ingredients and the measurements and the steps. So everything is finally in one place. So for this brunch, all I had to do was organize all of my recipes into one meal plan and then add everything to my grocery list in literally like 2 or 3 clicks. And it turns it into a smart grocery list so that I'm only buying what I actually need. No duplicates, no forgotten ingredients, no extra store runs, no wasted money. It saves so much money and so much time. You can even shop directly through Instacart. And guess what? They are adding a Walmart option soon too, and I can't wait for that. I look probably every other day or so to see if the Walmart feature has been added. Now, honestly, it's taken away that overwhelmed feeling that made hosting, and it's made hosting feel enjoyable again. Now, another thing that I love is that anybody in the family can go into the app, see the plan, and help out and pitch in. Even my kids use it and they want to cook more because this app just makes following recipes and finding them so simple and doable. For the kids, they especially love how recime will give you an option to see the whole recipe and steps at once or break it down into steps so that you can just see one step at a time. That especially is helpful for my youngest teenager who still needs things broken down into simpler steps. So if you're planning brunch this season, or if you just want to make everyday meals easier, recime has been such a helpful tool in our home. Please check it out. I know you will love it. My asparagus is ready. So through the years, I've always found that without a plan, it's pretty much a given that you'll end up overwhelmed immediately. By the way, low income tips, save these rubber bands that come on your produce like your asparagus. These things are so strong and sturdy and they last for so long, and I use them like crazy, and then you won't have to go buy them when you need them. So today, here is what I'm making. I'm going to make some bacon wrapped asparagus. I found bacon on sale for under $4 a package. It was $3.60 something, I believe, at our Winco. So if you have an Aldi's, a Winco, or something like that near you, that's probably the place you want to go and shop and find your bacon. The asparagus at Winco was also $1 something a bunch. It was so affordable. So I grabbed 2 packages of asparagus with it being such a good deal. By the way, asparagus is readily available in the spring usually, so this is a good time to find asparagus for a good price if you love it. So I'm going to be doing bacon wrapped asparagus. I'm also going to be doing a mushroom quiche, and it's going to be gluten-free because recently I was just diagnosed with celiac disease, and so I cannot do any gluten anymore. But that's okay. We actually have 2 of us in the family that need gluten-free. We're going to be doing a gluten-free quiche. Maybe I'll get a crust on it. It doesn't need to have a crust. You can make a crustless one. Or if you need a really good recipe for like a quiche crust or a pie crust, I recommend, I've covered this, by the way, with wallpaper, but this book is the How Can It Be Gluten-Free cookbook by America's Test Kitchen, and it has the best gluten-free pie crust recipe ever. So maybe I'll do a crust on mine, maybe not. I'm also probably going to do some cinnamon rolls. Cinnamon rolls are a great addition to this. They can be made in advance, but I'm also going to be making eggs Benedict. Did you know you can make Hollandaise sauce a day in advance? Now, it's not going to be quite as luxurious, but it's still very luxurious. You simply refrigerate it, and when you're ready to use it, you butter your toast with it as if the Hollandaise sauce were just straight butter, and it melts up perfectly. Nobody is going to know the difference. I'm also going to make my easy bacon breakfast casserole. I have made that before on the channel though, so I'm not going to show you that in this video, but I will link to other videos where you can find it and the blog post where you can find it. The easy breakfast casserole with the bacon, it's been a long time running hit in our family forever, for always. I remember the first time I tasted the easy breakfast casserole at my grandmother's house, and she was an amazing homemaker. And every time we would go see her, she always had a new recipe. She loved finding new recipes to feed her family. And so every time I eat this, I think about her. And I still remember the first time I tasted it and how I just could not get enough. So I will probably be making that for the brunch. Now, if you decide to make it too, one of the wonderful things about the easy breakfast casserole is you can refrigerate it 1 to 2 days in advance. And so you can even freeze it. So you can make it a week in advance and freeze it and pull it out the day before and thaw it in the fridge, and then you just pop it in the oven before it's time to cook it. Very easy, very simple. Now the quiche can be made in advance. The asparagus can be wrapped in bacon in advance. Cinnamon rolls made in advance. And even the eggs Benedict, as I explained. So today in this video, I'm going to be making the asparagus, eggs Benedict, and the quiche. Because the other recipes I've already made, but I will show you B-roll and clips of making some of those. Oh, there's one more dish that you could make that is super fun that I don't think you'll have any complaints over, especially if you have kids in the house. It is a potato and sausage or hot dog sheet pan breakfast. So I will also show you how to do that and explain how you can do that and make it in advance. So what makes my menu plan special today is that all of it can be made in advance and without overspending, since we're using a lot of seasonal ingredients. So let's get cooking.
So you've already been seeing some clips of these English muffins. This is what I'm gonna start out with making because they're gonna take a while to rise while I make the other things. But realistically, if you're short on time, just buy them. Truly, there's no pressure to make everything from scratch unless you need to for your family's dietary requirements or needs. This is just one of those things you can do ahead if you have the time, but if you don't, store-bought works just fine. I get it. I have a lot of irons in the fire too.
A lot of us were working with limited time and limited budgets. Some of us are working part-time jobs like I am. I work from home and I work lately around 30 to 40 hours a week. I rise naturally. I rise very early, and so that's how I'm able to work plus homemake plus take care of my large family and homeschool.
So the bottom line is it's all about making this work for your season, not making life harder than it needs to be. We can add special touches where we can, but in the areas where we can't, let's not stress it. But for these, I am making some sourdough English muffins because I make all of our family's bread from scratch. Since some of us are sensitive to wheat, I like to do sourdough for our family since technically it is best if we limit our wheat consumption. So if we are going to have wheat, I like it to be sourdough so that it's easier to digest. Now, if you already know how to make bread or sourdough, this is going to be really familiar. You don't have to use sourdough here. You can absolutely use regular bread dough. For mine, I started these a couple days ago. I started the bread dough and it's been slowly proofing in the refrigerator for a couple days. So now I'm just pulling it out. Well, it's still kind of cool. I'm going to roll it out and cut the muffins. And then they're going to go on a floured cookie sheet and set aside to rise. If you're trying to save money, learning how to make your own bread can make a massive difference. It is so much more affordable than buying bread, especially if you're a larger family and you go through a lot of it. Once you get the hang of making bread, it's really simple. If you've been wanting to learn sourdough though, I do have a course over on my Patreon. Also started a gluten-free sourdough collection where I'm sharing my journey as I revisit making gluten-free sourdough bread. So I'm doing this step by step so you can see the whole process. So if that's something you've been wanting to learn, you're welcome to join me over there, no pressure. And then I'm going to move on to the next dish while these are rising.
Aren't these eggs beautiful? These are from our chickens. We've got some green eggs here. These are from my moss eggers. And then I have black copper Moran eggs, cream Lake Bar. We've got some Houdini chicken eggs, and they're the white ones. I just love the egg basket. Very happy, very Easter. You know the old saying, waste not, want not, and when we're on a budget, that is usually something that's at the forefront of our minds as homemakers and cooks. So I'm making the Hollandaise sauce and it calls for egg yolk, and the quiche also calls for eggs. But you can make an egg white quiche just as easily, and maybe just throw in maybe a 1 or 2 eggs. So a quiche usually has quite a few eggs in it. Now, if I wasn't making the quiche, these egg whites would just be going to waste, or actually in our case, I would be putting them in the refrigerator and saving them for another day. But these are gonna be perfect in the quiche. It's gonna be primarily an egg white quiche since I need to use the egg whites. And so there's a little tip where you can use every ingredient, all the ingredients that you are cooking with. All right, so I did 9 eggs. We've got 9 egg yolks and 9 egg whites. The egg whites are for the quiche. The egg yolks are gonna be for the Hollandaise sauce. I was rummaging in the refrigerator, and I thought I was just gonna be using plain old crimini mushrooms, and I found these shiitake mushrooms. I thought my daughter used them all the other night on jambalaya, but she didn't. She saved some for me. And yeah, so I'm gonna use these in the quiche. They're my favorite. Well, champagne mushrooms are my favorite, but these are my second favorite. No, the chicken of the woods is my favorite, then champagne, or is it oyster mushrooms? No, it's the champagne mushrooms. That is a mushroom, right? Champagne mushrooms? Then shiitake, in that order. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. I think I'm gonna save just maybe like 5 or 6 of these beautiful asparagus pieces, and I'm gonna chop them up and put them in the quiche, and I'm gonna slice the mushrooms and put them in the quiche. My daughter just made me an espresso. Look at my new cup. I got this cup at the Goodwill. That's where I get most of my dishes. So if you are on a tight budget and you really want to create a beautiful brunch for your family, but you just don't have very much money, but maybe you need dishes, well, hit your local thrift stores. I once found a whole stack of Corelle plates. I think I paid like $10 for it. Was a huge stack for our family, and they were all Corelle. And you can also find, like, you might have to mismatch, but that's beautiful too. Mismatched can be so lovely. And so this bowl, I got it at the Goodwill. I got this cup at the Goodwill. I did get these 2 pieces here. I collect pottery, and I did get these 2 pieces from some local artisans. The woman that made these ones here, she was just such a precious woman, and I was so happy to be able to support her business. She was a Christian and just a really fascinating woman. So I think of her whenever I use this bowl. But yeah, your Goodwill, your thrift stores for secondhand dishes, and you can create such a beautiful spread. At least that could be a matter of opinion, but I believe that the secondhand dishes. Now, if you are going to do that, the one thing you want to look for, especially if you're doing pottery, is you want to make sure there's still a beautiful shine on them. If they've gone dull, for example, I think I have, maybe this piece here is not quite as dull, so you would not put anything in it that would leach into the materials. So if they've gone dull, that means the protective coating is wearing down. And inside a lot of dishes, there can be lead, especially in pottery. So when you go to find your secondhand dishes, and it doesn't matter really what kind they are, I think Corelle is the only kind that doesn't have lead. Most other dishes, if you go to buy them secondhand, make sure they still are in fairly decent condition and have a nice shine on them. Otherwise, that protective coating is gone, and they are not that safe to eat off of anymore because of, I believe it's lead. That is delicious. It's gonna keep me going through the rest of these recipes.
You're welcome.
If you want my quiche recipe, you can get it. It's actually on my website. I will link to my quiche recipe in the description box below. Now, I'll tell you, the recipe that you'll find on the website, it is not what I'm making today. It's a spinach quiche. You're simply gonna just want to swap out the spinach for the mushrooms and the asparagus, but you could just do it all together if you wanted to and put spinach in too. Singing a new song, breakfast spinach quiche.
This recipe calls for onions, chopped up onions, but I have some dehydrated onions and I'm going to use those instead. These are from our garden. I dehydrated them last fall. And we also have homegrown garlic still, quite a bit of it left. Here at our mountain homestead, we try to grow as much as we possibly can. It's a lot of hard work, but it is worth it. When it comes to these kinds of quiches, the sky's kind of the limit. Let your imagination run wild. The recipe I have on the website is of course for a spinach quiche, but you can use all kinds of different vegetables in it. You could use spring nettles, you could use spring dandelion leaves, you could use asparagus like I'm doing here, and mushrooms. You could put ham in them, and these can be made ahead of time. If you're gonna make it ahead of time, there are so many different ways you can do that. You can make your pie crusts, put them in the freezer, and keep them there until you're ready to use them. You can make the inside mixture ahead of time and keep it in a quart or a couple quarts in the fridge. And when you're ready to bake them, just get your pie crusts out, shake up the jar of the ingredients with your quiche ingredients, and then pour it in and bake it. Or if you want, you can just bake these in advance. If you're going to do that, you might want to pull them out and cool them quickly before they're completely done. But it's really important you cool them quickly if you're going to do that, and get them in the refrigerator so that there's no chance of food poisoning. Because if they're not completely cooked when you pull them, there's always that chance unless you get it cooled very quickly. But these can be made in advance. You could even cook it all the way if you want to, and just barely reheat them. Just don't overheat them. And you can keep them in the freezer cooked completely, or you can keep them in the fridge cooked completely, so you can make these as far in advance as you want. And another fun thing, you can put these into muffin tins. That makes really cute little individual servings. As you can see in the scenes, I chose to go no crust, and instead what I'm doing is kind of like a Parmesan crust. So I coated the pan with cooking spray, and then I sprinkled in some Parmesan cheese, and I'm just rolling it around on the sides so it has a nice thin layer of Parmesan cheese. That's gonna give it kind of like a crust, I guess you could say. Not necessarily, but still, it's gonna give it a really nice Parmesan layer in place of the crust.
Whenever I do a brunch like this, or whenever I'm cooking for a company, or cooking anything special at all, especially if you have a large family, it's really hard to cook for the present as well as the future. So something that I do that just saves me a lot of time, but also ensures that I create margin time or free time for myself and relaxation time later, is whenever I make anything, almost anything, I make double or triple. It's not always easy when you have a big family, and it's not always affordable when you have a big family, but as much as you're able to do that, it's a good idea because it saves you so much time in the long run. So I'm making one for today and one for tomorrow. This way I don't have to worry about making something else for today and something else for tomorrow, because it's just so much extra work. And us busy mamas, like, we really need extra work, right? So this is the way you can create margin space for yourself. Now the quiche, by the way, is a pretty affordable recipe. Not only is it an affordable recipe, but it's a recipe you can make well in advance, and you can make multiples. You can even do these into little muffin tins and make a whole bunch of little muffin tins and freeze them. Oh, and I want to tell you, I just learned of something you can do with the asparagus ends. You can actually take these and freeze them and save them for broth. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take these asparagus ends, and anytime that I have anything to add to this, I will add to it. But I'm gonna put these in this bag, and again, just in case you're not aware, this is a channel where I share a lot of low-income tips. So this is just another homemaking low-income tip for you. So I'm just gonna put all these in here, and then I'm gonna pop it in the freezer. And every single time I have garlic skins or peels or onion peels, potato peels, especially if they're organic, carrot peels, anytime I have anything like that, I'm gonna add them to this bag. When the bag gets full, I'm gonna take it out and maybe add some chicken bones to it that I've also been saving, and make broth. Could I get some volunteers that will help me wrap the asparagus with bacon? Does anybody want to help with that? No? It's really fun. You take each single piece of bacon. I'm wondering, maybe we should cut the bacon in half. You see? Yeah, look at that. There's a bunch of extra. So I think we better cut the bacon in half. What do you think? Or we can do little bacon wrapped bouquets. What do you think of that? Bacon wrapped bouquets. I like that idea, the bacon wrapped bouquets. That's cool. Is that cool? Let's do bacon wrapped bouquets. Asparagus bouquets. Let's do 4 at a time, okay? So take four asparagus pieces, but you don't want the bacon overlapping a whole bunch, okay? Because if it's overlapping, the part underneath won't get nice and crispy. Now this is gonna shrink up a lot. Okay, and we'll just, oh, this is cool. I think we better go this way though. Put the ends towards the inside of the pan because the inside of the pan is gonna cook more slowly and the outside of the pan is gonna cook more quickly. If you have these tips on the outside of the pan, they'll burn. And these will be undercooked.
Something else that can be made a day in advance up to weeks in advance is cinnamon rolls. You can make your cinnamon rolls, get them all rolled out, get the sugar on them, the butter, all of the goodies, roll them up, and then put them in your dish that you're going to bake them in. From there, you can put them in the freezer. They'll last for a couple weeks, a couple months, depending on how well you've wrapped them. You can wrap them individually and take them out and cook them as you want them or need them. Cinnamon rolls aren't really known as a convenience food, but they should be. They are extra special. You can make up a bunch in advance, pull them out as a fast food as you need them. And of course, cinnamon rolls are kind of like the icing on the cake of a brunch. Kind of too easy not to include. And next on the brunch list, and also something that can be made in advance, is this potato dish. It is super duper simple and it's always a hit. So what I'm doing is I'm just dicing up the potatoes. I'm going to barely cook them. If you overcook them, then this isn't going to turn out quite as well. You want to have them undercooked just slightly. You do not want them falling apart. So what I like to do is dice them up, bring them to a boil for about maybe 10 minutes, and then strain them and get them cooled. From there, you can toss them with olive oil and your hot dogs or your sausage. Go however fancy you want with that. And then you can keep it in the fridge until it's time to cook it all up. And the day you want to cook it up, just put it on your sheet pan and bake them, and you're done. And talk about affordable. This is a super affordable dish.
Okay, I think we're ready for the Hollandaise sauce. Is the Hollandaise dude in the house? Okay, you gonna make a Hollandaise? This is my Hollandaise dude. He's been specializing in the family Hollandaise sauce for probably about 4 years now. Go ahead, you can get started. It's the advantage if you teach your kids how to cook starting at a young age. You won't be all on your own when it comes to events like this. did a good job on it. Of course I did.
Making these English muffins is remarkably easy. So once they've risen, you want to put them into a preheated pan and put the lid on and then cook them for about 2 minutes. You kind of want to keep an eye on them, make sure they don't burn, but you definitely want the lid on them too so that they can steam properly. Once they've cooked for a couple minutes, you flip them over and you cook them for another couple minutes. So I think I did about 4 minutes per side, and that was cooking on kind of a medium-low heat. One of the ways that I see a lot of home cooks overwhelm themselves is they go to cook for a crowd a little bit larger than what they might be used to, and they don't use the right sized tools. If you're cooking for a crowd, you need large dishes. So these are very large cookie sheets. They were a great investment, and they take up almost the entire space of the oven rack. There's just a little bit left on each side for good airflow. Having dishes, having sheets like this, dishes like large whisks, large cookie sheets, large pans, well, it does a variety of things. If you're cooking a whole bunch of food, it helps you cook everything at the same time, which helps you cook everything more evenly. If you're doing all of these small batches, it's going to take a lot longer, and you'll have burnt batches and batches that are cooked perfectly, and then some that are like almost, but not quite. So having large enough pans so that you can just do everything in one swoop is one of the biggest keys to making enough food for a large quantity of people and having it be stress-free. If you're doing eggs Benedict and you've made everything in advance, the eggs are of course the one thing you cannot make in advance. To make it easy though, there's a couple different ways you can do this. Don't crack your eggs individually one by one into a pan if you're cooking for a crowd. That is going to take forever, and it's going to be kind of stressful because you're going to be flipping certain eggs while the other ones are getting too done. What I do is I crack a whole bunch of eggs into a bowl and I cook them all at the same time in a pan, just like you see me doing here. Another way you can do it is in the oven. So there's times where we're not doing brunch, we're just doing eggs Benedict, which means we need a lot more eggs. I will do them on a cookie sheet. I'll crack them. I will butter a cookie sheet really, really well. And I will put the eggs on the cookie sheet and just bake them. It works pretty well. You have to keep a very close eye on them, but you can cook a large quantity of eggs all at the same time doing it this way. Now, although you can't cook the eggs up in advance, you can crack them into a quart or a half-gallon jar, depending on how many that you need, and that way they are ready to go and just pour onto the pan the day that you're ready to make the brunch. Bacon can all be made in advance. All the English muffins can be made in advance. Now, if you are doing English muffins and you want to toast them, don't use the toaster, use the oven. Just turn the oven on broil, stick your English muffins straight on the rack, turn the broil on, keep a very good eye on them. Have a large dish handy so that when you see they're done, you can just scoop them all off really quickly. Or of course, you always could just do them on a cookie sheet, one of your large cookie sheets.